Linda, what are good healthy snacks, treats when training? I love freeze-dried liver treats or freeze-dried organ treats. There's a lot of really cool companies out there. I know on Instagram, I follow a lot of the companies. There's Naked Beast Snacks, there's Raw Feeding Miami. A lot of these companies will have like freeze-dried or dried treats that you can feed to your pets. You can use like freeze-dried heart. So for our dog, the question earlier for the heart disease, feeding freeze-dried heart treats, we're getting CoQ10, we're getting L-carnitine, we're getting taurine, we're getting all sorts of amazingness that is naturally in that heart muscle to feed the heart muscle. So keep it small. Like if you have a dog with a sensitive gut, keep in mind these can be really, really rich. The other thing a lot of people will do that I really love is that they'll dehydrate like their chicken or beef, or like they'll make their own jerky strips, keeping in mind like jerky, you have to be very careful if you're buying it in the stores that it's not coming from China, because it's contributed significantly to a lot of pet deaths and kidney disease. So if you're going to make something, like those are great options. You can also dehydrate like sweet potato chunks. There's a lot of great ways that you can get creative for feeding treats, but I definitely like going to whole food sources and reading those ingredient lists. I think it was Dr. Connor Brady. I know there's been a few people that have talked about in our summit panel at the very beginning that you can rewatch. We actually talked about treats and how, we could be feeding the best diet ever and we give treats that are trash, and we're like, why is my dog not getting better? And this actually happened to me recently, where I was at a client's house and this dog has inflammatory bowel disease, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, why isn't this dog healing? And she's like, oh, she loves like the snuffle mat. Watch what I do with her. And she pulls out this bag of like human jerky treats, like no joke, like the stuff with like the bad stuff in it. And she like peels it up, and the dog's going crazy. And I was like, oh my God, that's why this isn't working. And I was like so grateful I saw it, because then it really like brought home, like, we don't always know, like, especially from a veterinarian viewpoint, like everything that's happening in the home. And sometimes as the pet parent, we forget, like, oh, that thing we are giving may actually be causing harm long term to our pets. So definitely make sure you're looking at the ingredient list. Where is that treat coming from? Do your research, because it could be making your dog worse or inhibiting that gut health from healing. All right, next question. Kathy, is there any way you can give a few important herbs and supplements for the liver? So this is where, going back to, I know Dr. Gabby talked a lot about different herbs and supplements. A lot of the things that we talk about are actually supporting. So when we think about the system, right? And we think about like detox, because this is a huge part. Typically, this is not the first step, because we need a stronger body before we step into the realm of detoxing. But the gut is where a lot of those toxins are going. So this gut health summit is key for detox, but also we have the kidneys and we also have the liver. And so when I'm looking at liver support, I'm looking at things like, okay, well, what foods are really high in sulforaphane? I already talked about some of those. Those are going to be things that are like your broccoli, your cruciferous vegetables, broccoli sprouts. I talk a lot about on my social media because it's so easy, and we make broccoli sprouts. And if I can make it, anyone can make it. I get organic broccoli sprouts from Mountain Rose Herbs. There's a lot of other great companies where you can get them, and just Google how to make broccoli sprouts, but they're super concentrated. Even cats will eat them mixed into like raw food diets. So those are great. Like supplement. Milk thistle is another great one. With milk thistle, I tend to pulse dose it. So what that means is I'm not using it every single day. I tend to use it. So say if you're giving flea and tick preventatives and you're giving conventional ones, for one, make sure you check out my blog post on natural remedies for flea and tick stuff, because there's a lot of things we can use to help naturally repel insects rather than using toxins and chemicals. But if you have to give like a heartworm preventative or any of these flea and tick medications, or your pet is due for vaccines and you've done vaccine titers, so that's a whole different topic. We won't go there tonight. But that's when I'm using milk thistle. That's when I'm using things like, you can use your greens, your chlorophyll, so chlorella, your spirulina, Adored Beast has a great phytoplankton blend. Those would be all things that I'm using to help support liver, helps support detox pathways. And also, what's really cool is a lot of those are also supporting gut health. There's a really neat study with spirulina recently that showed that it increased immunoglobulin A, which is very important for immune health. Dr. Odette talked about it and it being low. And a lot of these dogs that have poor gut health and are poor, like that poor thrivers, they don't do well, that immunoglobulin A lot of times is low, and that's where we can use arabinogalactin. But there's all sorts of things that we can use to help, but those would just be a couple of them to really help. The spirulina has been shown to help with vaccines and boost that immunoglobulin A is where I was going with that. So just start with a couple or start with one and use that milk thistle like for 2 weeks around the time that you truly need it to help detox those chemicals, and then give the body a break. So I hope that helps, but make sure you're getting that real food in too, and using that a couple times a week also, and using that variety. So Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, your broccoli, your broccoli sprouts. Those are all great food sources. Asparagus is another great one. So just those are a couple.